For the first time in all of human history, mankind is politically awakened. That's a total new reality. And most people know what is generally going on in the world, and are consciously aware of global iniquities, inequalities, lack of respect, exploitation. The combination of the two, a diversified global leadership, politically awakened masses, makes a much more difficult context.
Most people at some period in their life experience what one might perhaps call a lucid moment. A moment when they look at life around them and they think, is this it? And then it suddenly hits them that there must be something more, that there is something more to life. Many people instinctively know that there is a great deal more to reality than what can be perceived with the five senses. But because most people think only with their left brain, they believe that connection to these realms can only be achieved through external technology, through science. A very good example of this is the internet. People find the internet with its instant connection to others and its instant access to information to be quite natural. In fact, there are many people today who simply cannot imagine life without it. The internet, in its own sense, unites humanity as one organism, able to communicate with itself spontaneously. And this becomes more true each day as more countries and more people come online. In this growing web of communication, we can clearly see the unification of mankind becoming a reality. But it is a digital version of it. One could almost say that the internet as we know it today is the central nervous system of a new humanity. A humanity that is vastly different from anything that has previously existed. As much as it has in many ways been a huge boon to our lives, the internet has also had another, less noticeable and somewhat more disturbing effect upon people, in that among some sections of society it has created an environment of separation, most especially among the youth, as it has brought about a situation wherein many people feel far more comfortable in the virtual world provided for them by the internet than they do in the real world that exists around them. Due to this fact alone, the internet has been single-handedly responsible for a huge loss of skill. A loss of skill not only in areas of practical hands-on survival and life skills, but also in areas of social and interpersonal communication. And it is also interesting to note that people with such characteristics would indeed be those most likely to embrace the merger between man and machine.
The internet, cell phones, all these other things that they've definitely enhanced our speed of communication, but they've also done something very important, and they've severed a very crucial tie between actually talking to people, looking into their eyes when you're talking to them, getting a feel for what they're actually feeling, and just in the simple fact that now everything is based upon language. We send language through the internet, we send language through the phone, language comes across through the television, and fortunately they're able to give a couple pictures and symbols and things like that, but other than that it's just based upon the language, and it's so disconnected from actual reality. Nobody ever stops and sits anymore and just sits inside an actual environment that is natural and just stops and listens to understand that that's reality. Because when we're talking, when we're jabbering, when we're watching something, when we're striving for something, when we're looking for this money, when we're looking for this car, when we're just going and going and going, that's nothing more than just a hamster on a wheel, just running and running and running, not really getting anywhere. And that's where the disconnect comes in. There's no nature in that anymore. We've completely divorced ourselves from nature. We are devoid of it now, because all in all, it all comes back to this little tube that sits in the corner of our room and tells us what reality is. And we sit there and we digest it and digest it and digest it until eventually we realize that this is just another form of poison, and all the poison is doing is disconnecting us.
Right in the comfort of our own homes, simply by pushing a button and turning a dial.
Well, transhumanism is the next stage on from where we are now. I mean, we have what I call the body computer, this biological body computer. And because those in the shadows understand that that's what it is, and that we are, like in a cosmic version of the wireless internet, you've got this kind of infinite energy field of information of various depths and various levels of awareness and expansion, and then you're decoding this bit of the band. Now, if you decode this bit of the band, which is what this body does, then that's your world, that's your everything, if you're just only aware of that. And so we have a global population that is constantly programmed to read a certain band, and then only some of that band within it. And through that, they are manipulating us to see self and the world in very minute, limited terms. When if we just opened our minds to consciousness, we would then start going further and further into the band and getting more and more insights, more and more knowledge, more and more awareness, and suddenly we'll see what's going on. And it seems to me that transhumanism is the next stage on from that, where they go the next stage into locking us into this robotic cyborg state, so that we are even beyond the limitations that we are now, to the point where basically you are born a robot, you live a robot, and you die a robot, with less and less impact on the conscious self, on perceptions, on behavior, on actions. And if we get to that point, which is what they want, there's a guy in Britain, a very strange man called Professor Warwick. He's famous for being implanted, he's at Reading University, for being implanted so he can turn the frickin' television on and off with his arm and all this crap. And he once said, what's the problem with loving your servitude? What is the problem with having basically technological connections which are feeding you a sense of happiness, so that you're always happy? He said this guy's an academic in Britain. And of course what he's talking about, Max, is Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, Love Your Servitude. The idea is to create this well, I almost said part human, very little part human, certainly almost nothing part consciousness, stroke technological being, which is nothing more than a servant of a system. And not only does it serve the system, it likes serving the system because it's being fed information telling it that it's happy to serve the system. I mean, it's beyond science fiction where these people want to go, but that's where they want to go. And the only answer to it is consciousness, is to break out before we get into this cyborg, part biological computer, part technological computer. Break out of this perception control that we have now, the level we do now, before it gets into that level, because they want to move towards that very quickly.
You don't have to wonder about the singularity to see remarkable changes coming from technology. Look at today and how remarkable technology is, and it's hardly stopping.
There's an unanswered question of how far can you go and still be human?
Technology is surely a wonderful thing, but by the same token, there can be no denying that via the manipulation of what technologies are released to the public based on their ability to generate income, rather than on the true benefits they hold, then the more technology man acquires, the more disconnected from the earth he seems to become. And it must also be clearly understood that technology itself is not the problem. Technology has most certainly been of huge benefit to our society, and it is nothing to be scared of. However, it needs to be kept in balance and used as a service to mankind. But what actually is transhumanism? What does it really mean? The transhumanist dream is perhaps best summed up by Ray Kurzweil at the close of his film Transcendent Man. And as positive and beneficial as the idea is presented to the viewer as being, the underlying tone is of the gradual assimilation of all life upon the earth, and indeed the entire universe, into one huge nano-machine, whereby the universe will become intelligent, as if it wasn't already, and at which point man himself will have created the machine god transhumanists believe human consciousness will ultimately become.
In the future, everything will become intelligent. Nanobots will infuse all the matter around us with information. Rocks, trees, everything will become these intelligent computers. So at that point, we're going to expand out into the rest of the universe. We will be sending basically nanotechnology infused with artificial intelligence. Swarms of those will go out into the universe and basically find other matter and energy that we can then harness to expand the overall intelligence of our human-machine civilization. So the universe will wake up, it'll become intelligent, and that will multiply our intelligence trillions of trillions fold. You know, we can't really fully contemplate. And that's really the main reason this is called the singularity. But regardless of what you call it, it will be the universe waking up. So does God exist? Well, I would say not yet.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
One must truly ask, is this the direction mankind should really be heading? But even more importantly is the question of whether mankind is actually being given any choice in the matter. And if the answer is no, then the next question is how might such a thing as the global implementation of the transhumanist agenda as outlined by Kurzweil actually be achieved without the knowledge of the general population?
Biotech is an exploding frontier. It is clever enough and small enough to enter and change our very cells. When nanobiotech has a firm footing in us, it will be easy to upgrade and downgrade anyone and anything in any way. Oliver Curry, an evolutionist at the London School of Economics, predicted in 2007, the human race will one day split into two separate species, an attractive, intelligent ruling elite and an underclass of dim-witted, ugly, goblin-like creatures.
Technology is only ever as dangerous as the mind of whomever wields it. And if those who hold the reins of power in this world can in any way be appraised according to their track record, then for the bulk of mankind, transhumanism presents itself as a very dire future indeed.